world was on the precipice of war. The great powers of Europe had drawn their battle lines, and soon men from every corner of the British Empire would march toward the unknown. For Ireland, the conflict was a paradox. A war for empire and dominion at a time when nationalist fervour had reached boiling point at home. For years, the Irish had pressed for home rule, seeking autonomy within the British system. But war changed everything. The promise of legislative independence suspended in the wake of global conflict became a fragile hope that many clung to amid the uncertainty. In Ireland's cities and rural towns, tens of thousands faced economic hardship. For many, enlistment was not a political decision, but a means of survival. In the pubs and gathering halls, recruitment officers painted a picture of glory, urging young men to stand with Britain in return for a better future. They enlisted by the thousands. By 1918, over 200,000 Irishmen had worn the uniform of the British Army, a staggering number that often falls into the shadows of history. They fought in the blood-soaked trenches of the Western Front, alongside men who viewed Ireland as little more than a rebellious territory. There was no simple allegiance. Some fought for the adventure, others for a promise of stability. Many believed that serving would strengthen Ireland's case for home rule once the war ended. And yet, even as they battled on the fields of Europe, their home was changing irreversibly. In 1916, as these soldiers faced artillery and machine gun fire in Flanders and the Somme, the Easter Rising exploded into a violent rebellion back home. The Ireland they had left behind was not the Ireland they would return to. When the war ended, many came home to silence. Their sacrifice was buried beneath the growing nationalist movement. Some were viewed with suspicion, others were condemned outright. The war had shifted everything, and the memory of their service was left in the margins. But who were these men? What stories did they carry? Who are the forgotten voices of Ireland? Who were these wartime volunteers, men who fought in a conflict that never truly belonged to them, and who returned to a home that scarcely remembered them? The sound of artillery cracked through the air in Flanders, on the Somme, and across the blood-soaked battlefields of Europe. Irish regiments fought side by side with British forces. They endured gas attacks, machine gun fire, and the relentless grind of trench warfare. Many believing they were securing Ireland's future, others simply trying to survive. For those in uniform, the war was clear. An enemy ahead, orders to follow, and the desperate hope to return home. But in Ireland, the battlefield was shifting. Back home, revolution ignited. While Irish soldiers bled into the soil of France and Belgium, their countrymen raised arms against the British in Dublin streets. The Easter Rising of 1916 was not just a rebellion, it was a turning point. For decades, Irish nationalists had pursued independence through political means, but war changed the equation. The British response was swift and brutal, executing rebel leaders, imprisoning hundreds, and shifting public sentiment irreversibly. Suddenly, those Irishmen fighting in British ranks faced a haunting realization. The country they left behind was no longer the same. Recruitment dwindled. Young men who might have once enlisted now hesitated, fearing they'd be labelled as traitors. And for those already in battle, word of home reached them like whispers through the trenches, spoken in uncertainty, carried in letters, never truly understood until they returned. By 1918, the war drew to its bitter conclusion. Over 200,000 Irishmen had served in British ranks. Tens of thousands had died, and yet their sacrifices would soon be swallowed by history. They returned to a homeland that scarcely acknowledged them. Many were met not with gratitude, but suspicion. Some were cast aside, ignored, or condemned, victims not only of war, but of shifting political tides.